Sasuke Uchiha in Part 1 of Naruto stands as a masterclass in nuanced character writing, blending themes of love, loss, revenge, identity, and moral ambiguity to craft a figure torn between two irreconcilable identities, the boy who craves connection and the avenger consumed by hatred. His journey is driven by profound emotional depth and moral complexity, making him one of fiction's most compelling characters. This internal conflict shapes his relationships, motivations, and decisions, elevating his character arc beyond typical hero or villain archetypes. Sasuke's story begins in an idyllic setting, a boy cherished by his family, idolizing his older brother Itachi, his protector and role model. Yet, despite this affection, Sasuke yearns for validation, particularly from his father, who favors Itachi's genius. This dynamic fosters both admiration and an underlying sense of inadequacy. His longing for recognition is not just a character trait, but the root of his fatal flaw. The same desire that drives him to seek his father's approval will later warp into a rejection of all bonds as he conflates vulnerability with weakness. His tragedy lies in this continuity. The boy who craves connection becomes the avenger who destroys it, not out of malice, but because his trauma twists love into liability. This foundation of love is torn apart by the Uchiha massacre, in which Itachi murders their entire clan, sparing only Sasuke, creating a scar that defines Sasuke's motivations from that point onward. Itachi's betrayal transforms Sasuke's admiration into hatred and his desire for approval into an obsession with power and revenge, not just as a goal, but to reclaim his sense of self. He blames himself for being too weak to prevent the massacre from happening. His need for revenge becomes a way to reclaim his shattered identity, and it fuels his transformation into a character as morally complex as he is driven. The Sharingan, awakened through intense emotional pain, becomes a symbol of this transformation. Eyes that reflect the hearth, a great loss of love replaced with a stronger feeling of hatred. These eyes that reflect the Uchiha's perception and power ironically blind Sasuke to the truth of Itachi's actions, foreshadowing his later ignorance of his brother's true motives. Sasuke perceives the world through a lens of hatred, unable to see beyond his own pain. Even as the eyes evolve, Sasuke's vision narrows, leading to his eventual moral blindness in Shippuden. This duality elevates the Sharingan from a plot device to a metaphor for how trauma distorts truth. Sasuke's interactions with Team 7 underscore the tension between his desire for companionship and his unrelenting quest for vengeance. For the first time since losing his family, they represent a semblance of the bonds he once cherished. Yet, these bonds also evoke fear, the risk of experiencing the same pain and loss he endured with his clan. Though he tries to keep his distance, he inevitably forms connections with them, consistent with his true self. Naruto serves as a foil to Sasuke. Naruto's unwavering belief in bonds as a source of strength defines his journey, while Sasuke's fear of attachment pushes him toward isolation. For Sasuke, forming connections means risking further pain, a fear rooted in the trauma of losing his clan. Naruto symbolizes hope and resilience, offering the possibility of healing through trust and connection. In contrast, Sasuke embodies the cost of succumbing to grief and vengeance, creating a dynamic that drives much of the emotional tension. As both felt the pain of isolation, they inevitably bond over it, which turns into rivalry, something that tests Sasuke's commitment to his goals and later decisions. Sasuke's obsession with power and his quest for vengeance makes him stronger than Naruto, who he uses as a benchmark of his own progress, a decision that ultimately leads to spiraling further into darkness. Sasuke's trauma-driven motivations fuel his fixation on avenging his clan, yet glimpses of his original kind and affectionate nature still surface. It's especially clear in moments where Sasuke puts his teammates' lives and well-being before his own life and goals. He protected Sakura against Demon's brothers, sacrificed himself for Naruto against Haku, took on Orochimaru to protect both, and went against Gaara so Naruto could escape with Sakura. Yet when he's faced with these significant challenges, he is often reminded of his own inadequacy and lack of strength that serves as a stark reminder of his past, unable to protect his clan. This is deepened by Naruto achieving what he couldn't, serving not only as a reminder that he isn't strong enough, but his supposed lack of growth. The curse mark, given to Sasuke by Orochimaru, becomes a central symbol of his internal struggle. Initially, it represents power, a way to protect Team 7 during the Forest of Death. When Sakura is attacked by the Sound Ninja, Sasuke awakens the mark's power, effortlessly defeating Zaku and breaking his arms. In that moment, the mark gives him the strength to protect his loved ones and enact revenge, fulfilling his dual desires. However, it also embodies temptation, a Faustian bargain that accelerates his descent into darkness. Orochimaru, a serpentine tempter figure, exploits Sasuke's trauma, offering the strength he craves while simultaneously corrupting him. The curse mark spreads across Sasuke's body, visually depicting his growing internal conflict. His struggle against it, most notably when Sakura's embrace momentarily suppresses its influence, symbolizes the tension between his desire for connection and his thirst for vengeance. Each time Sasuke activates the mark, he isn't just borrowing power, he's surrendering to a cycle of self-destruction, trading fleeting strength for irreversible decay. In the first part of Chunin exams, he is almost consumed by it, but it's thinking of Team 7 that helps him get it under control, showing the strength of bonds at that time was stronger than the need for power and vengeance. The inevitable progression of the curse mark shows his losing battle, growing influence of Orochimaru and Sasuke's darker side. The battle with Gaara bears the tragic irony of Sasuke's resistance. By fighting the curse mark's influence, a momentary triumph of his bonds over hatred, he renders himself powerless to protect Sakura. His failure isn't a lack of strength, but a refusal to surrender to Orochimaru's corruption, a choice Kishimoto frames as both noble and self-defeating. When Naruto summons Gamabunta, the toad's colossal size juxtaposes Sasuke's isolation with Naruto's collective strength. Sasuke misreads this as a personal failing, ignoring the lesson. Naruto's power stems from trust, not solitary grit. The fight becomes a microcosm of his arc, resisting darkness but refusing light, trapped in a limbo of his own making. It is right after this battle, and the sand invasion of the leaf, that Itachi makes his return to Konoha, another key moment in Sasuke's story. When he learns Itachi has come for Naruto, his first thought is not revenge, but Naruto's safety. A fleeting glimpse of his lingering attachment to his friends, and how Team 7 made him slowly revert to his true self. Yet, when confronted with Itachi's overwhelming strength, Sasuke's trauma resurfaces. His defeat deepens his feelings of inadequacy, and Itachi's words, "You lack hatred," reinforce his belief that bonds are a weakness. This moment is steeped in irony. Sasuke's quest for power isolates him, yet it's his isolation that leaves him powerless against Itachi. Isolating himself leaves him unprepared for Itachi's psychological warfare. Like a classical tragic hero, Sasuke's fatal flaw isn't ambition. It's his refusal to see strength in vulnerability. Itachi's taunt, "You lack hatred," is doubly ironic. Sasuke's hatred is all-consuming, yet it's his inability to channel love into resolve that dooms him. His tragedy isn't just losing the fight, it's losing the chance to grow, as he misinterprets defeat as proof of his philosophy's validity. The encounter foreshadows his eventual departure from Konoha, as he begins to see his bonds with Team 7 as obstacles to his goals. However, just seeing Itachi isn't what made him pursue revenge. Itachi did not just defeat Sasuke, but Kakashi, his sensei too. He came for Naruto, his best friend, and there was no one who could stop him. It repeated the trauma of his past, losing loved ones and not being strong enough to prevent it. Fighting against curse mark that made his friends suffer, Itachi's return and seeing his advantage over Naruto diminishing accumulate into his decision to leave the village. After he wakes up from the encounter with Itachi, he is already falling to the dark side. The feelings of worthlessness make him act out on Sakura, where the imagery clearly shows the growing influence of Orochimaru on him. He couldn't save her. Naruto did. And Itachi came to the village for Naruto, with no one to stop him. Faced with immense growth of Naruto, he challenges him to try and reaffirm his own strength, which he started doubting. Seeing the after effect of their battle, it was clear the advantage he had over Naruto was rapidly diminishing, reaffirming his mistaken beliefs that his progress has been halted. Not being able to save Sakura due to rejecting the power of the curse mark, Itachi's stark reminder of his vengeful side and mistaken beliefs of his lack of growth accumulate into his decision to leave the village. Though before he does, we're reminded of his struggle once again. Sasuke is remembering Team 7, only for those memories to be replaced by the vision of Itachi's face. At that moment, Sasuke was forced to choose between the two paradigms of his character that were clashing between each other. Will he stay with Team 7, form new bonds and hope for the best? Or will he go down the path of vengeance, taking things into his own hands and rely only on himself, both to avenge his clan, as well as gain strength that he felt he lacked to prevent Itachi from taking loved ones from him? Sasuke's departure from Konoha is the ultimate expression of his internal conflict. Torn between his attachment to Team 7 and his desire for revenge, he chooses the latter, believing it to be the only way to protect himself from further pain and achieve his purpose. He joins Orochimaru, the strongest person he knew at the time, willing to give up his life just to get a chance to stop Itachi, valuing his goals more than his life. As a final act on making a choice and going with the darker side of his inner turmoil, he faces Naruto in the final valley. Naruto, born into nothing, seeks strength through bonds versus Sasuke, seeking power by relying only on himself. The waterfall dividing the two figures mirrors their ideological clash. The symbolic battle reaches the conclusion with Sasuke entering the second stage of the curse mark, which consumes Sasuke's body, a grotesque armor symbolizing his surrender to darkness. Its organic, serpentine texture mirrors Orochimaru's influence, visually tying his corruption to Sasuke's surrender. Yet, the mark's spread isn't just a symbol of power, it's a literal erosion of self. Yet, even in this moment, at the last strike, he pulls his punch. This hesitation is more than a moral victory. It's the foreshadowing of anagnorisis. Sasuke's refusal to kill Naruto, despite having the chance, hints at the self-awareness he'll grapple with in Shippuden, that his path of isolation is unsustainable. The curse mark's consumption of his body contrasts with this flicker of clarity, symbolizing the battle between his corrupted ideals and latent humanity. While Part 1 doesn't resolve this tension, it plants the seeds for his eventual realization that strength without bonds is a hollow victory. The imagery of the final pages, Naruto carried back to the village to his friends, bathed in light, while Sasuke walks alone into darkness, encapsulates the tragedy of his arc. Sasuke's choice to abandon his bonds replicates the very abandonment that scarred him, creating a cycle of pain that defines his character. In his quest to enact revenge against Itachi and reject his ideals, he began to resemble him. By the end of Part 1, Sasuke's journey is far from over, but the foundation laid here sets the stage for one of the most compelling character arcs in anime and manga history. His arc is a tapestry of literary craftsmanship. His duality, connection versus vengeance, is explored through foil dynamics. Naruto's bonds, Orochimaru's corruption, while motifs like the Sharingan and curse mark externalize his psychological decay. Classic tragic structure underpins his downfall, his hamartia, rejecting bonds, hubris, believing isolation grants strength, and anagnorisis, realizing his error too late, mirror archetypal Greek heroes. Yet it's the subtle touches, the way Sakura's embrace briefly stills the curse mark, or how Itachi's words echo his father's neglect, that root his tragedy in human fragility. Sasuke isn't just well-written because he's complex, he's compelling because his flaws feel inevitable, his pain relatable, and his downfall crafted through deliberate literary design. It's this emotional and psychological depth that makes Sasuke one of the best written characters, not just in Naruto, but in all of fiction.